Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick has confronted fare dodgers on the London Underground to highlight what he calls out-of-control lawbreaking.
Yeah, the MP approaches people who force their way through a barrier and he asks them if they'd like to go back and pay. What a polite question to ask someone who's just dodged it. Would you like to go back and pay? You know, remember investigative, those Roger Cook reports, those sorts of things?
Yeah.
Vibing that.
He's vibing that. I mean, that's one way of thinking about it. So is it time to take the law into your own hands, our own hands, just like Robert Jenrick has done? Former president of the Law Society, Stephanie Boyce, believes the video is irresponsible and encourages vigilante behaviour. But former Conservative Special Advisor James Price argues the public have to step in as police aren't capable of looking after us right now. Now, go to you. Is that right? You think what he's done is a perfectly reasonable thing to do and that the public should get involved and stop people?
I think what he's done is fantastic. When I watched this video, I found myself just pumping my fist and thinking this is great that someone is highlighting this. He's also not just a member of the public, right? He is the Shadow Justice Secretary, and he's highlighting the rampant lack of legality and law breaking down that's happening. I equate this to graffiti and to broken windows, and the idea that if you just let this stuff happening, then we slide further and further into lawlessness. And also, after I'd been asked to come on this show last night, I was coming back from a church service. I was stood at West Hampstead Station in London with my dog and my wife, looking at the lovely sunset, and some bloke pushes past me, throws his bike over the barrier, his Deliveroo bag over the barrier, and just barges on through. I thought these guys are never going to believe me.
And nobody
when
stopped
I tell you. No
that
one stopped it
person.
happen. And then he was off on his bike before, you know, you could go and find any member of staff or police.
My question is whether would this have happened if Robert Jenrick wasn't being filmed for it? I mean, I don't know whether in private he would do this, because that's the question, isn't it, Stephanie, is whether, fine, if you're not doing it for a viral clip to make a political point, should you do it at all?
Well, I think the point is, and of course we've learnt this morning, that Robert Jenrick was filming this to highlight the rules that are being broken, but he himself allegedly has broken rules by not seeking permission to film in TfL's underground station in the first place.
And you tweeted back to the person who pointed that out, why don't you get a life?
Well, absolutely. There is a responsibility on our politicians, our senior leaders, to do things that are not divisive, may I suggest. The reality is, I think there's about 3.5% of people who don't pay the fare but make up this cohort that we're speaking about. Taking the law into your own hands comes with risk. And if you confront someone, there is a danger that that someone may be innocent, they may be unfairly targeted, and they may react and respond.
Yeah, but hang on, that's not what happened to James yesterday. He saw it in front of his own eyes. I mean, what he saw, people going through barriers, we've got to stop gaslighting people that say, look, there are clearly instances where people break the law, and the question is, in those circumstances, your point is that's a matter for the authorities. If they're not there, that's our problem. We lose the money. It's not for individual citizens to take the law into their own hands. And your point is that that's right all the time.
My suggestion is it's not right all the time. There will be people who will feel it appropriate to intervene because there is a duty on us as citizens. If there is a house on fire, it's a duty on us to call the appropriate authorities rather than walk past. Or if somebody's been attacked in the street, some of us will intervene, some of us will call the authorities. The point is that in this video, there are British Transport Police there, trained officers who, may I suggest, Mr Jenrick, could have brought to their attention what was going on. And also the alleged issue of carrying a knife or being threatened with the use of the knife. Why did Mr Jenrick not report that to the officials stood there?
To come back, he absolutely did. You can see when people go and watch the video, and nearly 10 million people have seen it on Twitter, he chases someone up to the barriers and he says, excuse me, officers, this guy here, look, we've got you on video, you're banged to rights. And the police do take him to one side. And also,
but he doesn't mention, certainly the point that I've seen, he doesn't mention about the allegation around a knife or being threatened with a knife.
I'm sure he can do that there as well. And I'd also come back on this idea that he has broken the rules. If you actually look at the Transport for London Conditions of Carriage, section 2.4, I did check this out, it says you can't film for commercial purposes. He's not doing this for commercial purposes. He's doing this to highlight the rampant illegality that's happening. And this is a small part of a much broader problem, that people like Sadiq Khan have effectively decriminalised all these kinds of problems. And we are all the people that suffer this. And I've seen this again. A couple of years ago, I turned a corner in Paddington Underground Station and there was some guy who was drunk or something or other who was attacking a TfL officer and 2 police officers. I'm a big guy. I jumped in as well and pulled this guy's arm behind his back and had to write a police statement and all the rest of it. And again, I made the calculation as a big guy that I'd probably be all right and that not everyone should do that sort of thing. But if you just go through your day being silent and not doing anything, when the police are doing so little themselves,
there's the ballot box for that. And I don't think... nobody's denying that there is an issue with crime and disorder in this country at the moment. And we've seen
the
figures.
The Shadow Justice Secretary is therefore highlighting this.
Absolutely, but there's ways and means.
And the Telegraph says that they've TfL advised their staff that they don't need to stop fare dodgers. I mean, you can have more British Transport Police, but if they're not doing anything about it, and we all lost, it makes it more expensive for the poorest to use the transport network. I mean, isn't this a good thing?
Well, absolutely. There will be times and instances where it's appropriate and people will feel empowered, perhaps more so now that they've seen this video, to do that. But what individuals must recognise is that there is a risk of doing this. And you yourself, by intervening, may yourself find yourself at the wrong end of the law.
Oh, you might, right. So
might.
what are the risks? I mean, obviously, the risk to yourself in terms of you don't know how that person might react if you approach them. That's true of all things in public spaces, isn't it? But in terms of the law, if you are then tackling somebody verbally to say, excuse me, I think you've broken the law there, can you go... Where are you legally, then, as that bystander who's intervened?
Well, depending on the action that's taken, you could find yourself the subject of harassment charges.
Could you?
Absolutely. There are data privacy implications from what Mr Jenrick has done. You know, was people's consent obtained? I'm not suggesting, OK, they were breaking the rules. But at the end of the day, there are a number of rules. We live in a rule-based country.
We've got lots of responses. Gone.
So this is a problem, is what I think, of just thinking about these things purely in terms of legality. We can all think of laws in the past that were maybe legal because they were on the statute book, but they weren't moral. You know, it was illegal to be gay once upon a time, things like that. And I think that we get lost in the weeds of thinking, well, technically this might break subsection whatever, but we're not thinking about the broader...
But you're breaking one law to stop another law being broken.
Jenrick wasn't in this case, but I think there's a problem of that we're not getting to the morality of this. It's why so many people think there is a level of two-tier justice in this country.
Maybe it's because the tickets are too expensive in the first place. But Robert Jenrick picked one of the most deprived boroughs in London to go and do this. At the end of the day, there's lots of social issues going on. We live in a country where we respect and adhere to the rule of law. And if everybody was to take the law into their own hands, it would simply be chaotic.
And just to check, you couldn't do a citizen's arrest. I mean, I don't know if people ever really do those sorts of things. But
it's a very dangerous thing to do, a citizen's arrest, other than in the most extreme circumstances. It has to be for a serious indictable offence. Those are the offences that take place in the Crown Court, and it's where there are no police around. You've got to be absolutely sure.
We've seen in cases where there was a terrorist attack where the bloke pulled the narwhal tusk off the wall and chased someone down the street. That man is a hero, right? And you can't seriously say that in all these cases.
And those are exceptional cases where it's right to intervene.
And I would much prefer that the police would do this.
It's an interesting discussion, but, you know, crime on the tube has risen more than 50% in a year, according to TfL data. But the TfL have responded to Robert Jenrick's video to say it's expanding the number of investigations to target the most prolific fare evaders, adding to the more than 500 uniform officers across the network.
Loads of you got in touch.
Yeah.
Michael on X says, I would stop them without hesitation, just the same as those people who steal phones from people's hands.
Excellent.
He said, I'd make sure they never did it again. You can't rely on the police because they've no respect from anyone. They don't intimidate criminals or do anything. Susan says, so because he's an MP, he can't take the law into his own hands. Good on him. Lots of people, Stephen on X, it's right that he highlighted. Lots of other people are saying, look, leave it up to the staff to do it if there are fare evaders. I think most people are quite relieved to see somebody highlighting something that irritates those of us who do pay our fares.
Irritated or not, there's laws, and I think Sharon's point, please be careful. We all agree on that.